bad out there. All right, joining us right now, got to talk about the Niners as they begin, hopefully, a long run, a march to the Super Bowl in Arizona this year. The one, the only from the Athletic. That's right, 3 syllables. The one, the only, Matt Barrows. Hello.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Great. 4 syllables. Athletic.
Yeah, you put a lot on it.
Athletic.
Yeah. Matt, before we get to the nuts and bolts of yesterday's game and before we get to the nuts and bolts of this playoff march, I want to tip my cap to you. I want to say, was it last Tuesday that your piece on the Niner it was last week, your piece on being in the locker room came out on The Athletic. And how cool is that? No offense to any other journalists that cover the team, but they're obviously not as good as you or trusted because you got exclusive access into the locker room. You talked about how players are coming up to you saying, what are you doing here in like a nice way? How cool was that for Kyle to let you to be able to do that?
Very cool. And maybe he picked me because I'm 5'5", 120 pounds, and he figured I would just kind of disappear into the corner of the locker room. I don't know if you ever have seen the footage of them coming out pregame. They have this massive boombox that's red. It's gigantic. So they put that in the corner of the locker room, and I figured, okay, I'll stand behind this. No one's going to see me here. Those were my only instructions. Just don't make yourself really apparent. Just be sort of a fly on the wall. Certainly don't ask questions. Just kind of observe. And I said, yeah, absolutely. No one, I guarantee you, no one will know that I'm even there. And it took 5 seconds for that to be blown up. And, 5 different guys came up to me in very quick succession asking me what the heck I was doing there. So, that was, I mean, that to me sort of underscored the what the sacred place I was in. Yeah. They knew when there was an intruder in there right away.
Did it play out in your mind like you thought it would be? I mean, you've been in their locker room, you've been in other locker rooms, you know what these scenes can be, but now you're in a different time period. What surprised you maybe the most out of it?
That there was so much chaos in there initially. I mean, it was sort of the period, say it was 10 minutes that they were in there. It was divided between chaos where everyone is sort of doing their own thing, getting themselves right, tape-wise, food-wise, going to the bathroom, going into the training room. It's like a bunch of atoms kind of pinging around. And then all of a sudden it just settles and it turned into a classroom, like a really intense classroom where everybody's kind of at the edge of their seat looking at what their respective coaches are doing. And then it goes right back into exactly what you would think that the halftime was, which is one guy, in this case it was Fred Warner, kind of giving some rah-rah words in the middle of the room and then them breaking and then them kind of rushing out. So it was a mix of things. I can't, it's hard for me now to remember what I thought it was going to be going in. But it definitely had all these different phases to it, and it definitely was a ritual.
Check that out on The Athletic as Matt Barrows joins us. Last thing on that, you knowing that you were going to do that in advance. As you were talking, I just had a snicker to myself because I'm imagining like D'Amico Ryans or Kyle Shanahan doing their thing, and you said it's a classroom, and then all of a sudden, like, "Hit me, baby, one more time" comes off your phone ringer. Like, were you making sure that your phone was silent, that you weren't like everyone turns to you in the corner?
That would have been very, one thing that I was very grateful of. I mean, I was in a corner where Kyle Juszczyk and Juwan Jennings, George Odom. I was in a corner where those guys have a locker room. If I had been in the corner where George Kittle had his locker, I mean, he would not have been shy about just, hey, what is he doing here? And really making a big thing out of it. So I chose the right corner in that regard. If it would have been George's corner, I might have been really too apparent, and a big frown comes off of Shanahan's face, and get him out of here, that sort of thing. So it might not have worked out as well as it did.
Well, Matt, yesterday the Niners got another win. That's 10 in a row. They look good again. They didn't get quite the help they wanted because they, I'm sure, would have loved the bye. But home field's going to go through them all the way unless they meet up with Philly in the last part of this, the NFC Championship game. But let's start with the matchup this week. A third crack at Seattle. Never easy to beat a team 3 times. What do you think? Your early thoughts on this matchup this weekend?
I mean, there are some things that make you nervous if you're a 49ers fan, one of which is, a couple of recent back-end issues, big plays by the opponents. Teams seem to be zeroing in on Diamador Lenore as the weak link on the back end of that defense. I think the rain, what you guys were just talking about as I came on, I mean, the weather, bad weather is always a big equalizer. So I think that the talent disparity between these two teams is huge, and that the 49ers ought to win it and ought to win it pretty comfortably. But the weather, it can be something that brings those scores closer together. And so whenever that's the case, you're talking about sort of the vagaries of chance, a fumble, a blocked field goal, those sorts of things. And that's where the Seattle Seahawks have made their bones over the years. It's just sort of fluky plays, not fluky because they've consistently made those, but really sort of taking control of momentum on those types of plays. So those are my thoughts. But if we catch a window in the rain, which is what happened yesterday in the Cardinals game, I think the 49ers win this pretty handily because they've won. I know the game in Seattle was closer than they like, but the Seattle had everything going for them in that game. They had home field advantage. They had a rookie quarterback making his first ever start, and that rookie quarterback was so hurt he didn't attempt a single pass in the run up to that game. Purdy's much more healthy than he was back on December 15th. So. Those are my thoughts. If it's a dry game, I think this is the 49ers by a couple of scores.
Matt, how long, counting the B, counting everything, how long have you covered this team?
This is my 20th season, Dave.
Okay. So 20 seasons in, and I know we all have recency bias and different things. I don't think you have biases. You're an actual journalist. Where do you put this team up against the previous 19 you've covered?
That's a great question. I really haven't. I mean, I've thought about the defenses and, where this defense ranks among those Patrick Willis defenses. I always think that 2011 defense is the best one I saw. That was Alden Smith's first year, Justin Smith at the height of his game. Ahmad Brooks was better than everybody thought. Ray McDonald was better than everybody thought. But teams, I mean, that was a really, really vanilla offense they had that year. And it got better when Colin Kaepernick took over and they sort of surprised the league with what that was doing. But just in terms of talent and different places to go with the ball, I would say that this team from top to bottom, great special teams too, is at the top. I think that 2011-2012 team is right behind it at this point, but 2022, I think, takes the top spot.
Well, now, I mean, we already knew the offense at times this year was pretty good, but like they had excuses for it not to be with different pieces being out. Mitchell's back, looked good. Kittle's staying hot. Debo returned. You still have McCaffrey. Purdy's fitting in his role. It still feels like the offense has a chance to just keep getting better.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, look at some of the subplots in this game. Ayuk going over 1,000 yards, for a while there. McCaffrey had the lead in touchdowns. This is touchdowns for the 49ers. So touchdowns that he's scored since week 7. And then Kittle took it back, and then Kittle took the lead. I mean, it just shows you the diversity of talent on the team. And you're right. I thought that the Mitchell, particularly the Mitchell game, the way that he ran the ball, just not really kind of tiptoeing back into the swing of things. He jumped in with both feet. I thought that was already a win for this team. The way that he moved. There was one play that Debo got where he did some dancing along the sideline and looked pretty smooth. It looks like he's coming back full bore. So. It's the full arsenal of 49ers. Like I keep saying, one good way to kind of mute that arsenal is to have a real bad weather game. The 49ers had that in week 1. They couldn't muster much at all, and they ended up losing to a team that I believe now has the number 1 pick in the draft. I mean, if that doesn't tell you what a swampy game can do, I don't know what would, but that would be my biggest concern going to this game.
I wonder. I'm not a stat guy. I'd love to find out. I wonder how many teams have had 8 100-yard receivers and have had 5 200 or better yard rushers for the season. What an absolute diverse offense for this team. And Matt, we look forward to talking to you throughout what is hopefully, as we told Greg Papa last week, a very, very long and fruitful playoff run, my friend.
Yes, me too. I hope that we're still talking in February.
Yes, I count on it. I mean, either way we will, but I mean on the air, right? That's what you meant, right?
Oh yeah, right.
Yes.
Instead of our daily things where we discuss life and all that stuff.
We meet at the train tracks. Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Matt. Have a great
Thank
week,
you.
buddy.
All right, anytime, guys.
All right, take
Bye.
care. That is Matt.
February?
I'll take a break. He said it, not me. When we come back, let's talk about what Matt said. I want to get into that offense